Hello, Crystal Palace. Welcome to the Upper Norwood Library Hub's Library Live Lunch. This is a place to share useful and positive information, learn about the community in more depth, and keep each other connected and entertained. So my guests today are Sue Giovanni and Lou Yates, who are here to tell us about the Vicar's Oak Path and Invisible Palace. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you. Tell us a bit about what's going on with the Vicar's Oak Path now, because it's looking absolutely beautiful. So what?
Well, we've just missed peak allium season. All the big round purple blobs of the ornamental onions have all just gone over, but they're now lovely green shapes instead of purple shapes. And the verbena is about to explode, so we've got lots of verbena wafting about. But there's Sweet Rocket, which is a lovely shock of white. That was a kind of freebie, I think, that came along with something else. Cool. We weren't expecting that, but when it came up, it was like, fine, that's lovely. Great for bees and so on. Loads of golden marjoram that's going nuts. I spoke to someone the other day who said they were hoping it was marjoram because they've been picking a bit every day and taking it home for their tea. There's a little free red campion or a pink campion that just turned up. The orange daylilies are about to open too, which are lovely. And if you look really carefully in some places, we've even got some baby oak trees.
Wow.
And those are just, amazing. That's just nature doing its thing, jays and squirrels and stuff. So it's looking fantastic. And the lavender's about to open too. So the lavender's getting really, really bushy and very purple looking. So that'll be lovely in a week or two, covered in bees.
I did notice on my way past that everything looks very tall.
Yeah.
Some amazing colours and just lots of height.
Yeah, that's the verbena. It suddenly decides to go bolt upright, and every year it's just like you forget how fast it grows. Amazing, really amazing.
And what else are we likely to see in the next month or two?
Well, mostly the daylilies, because they'll be doing their thing, and we've got orange and sort of magenta. The colours were kind of connected to Crystal Palace themes. Okay. So we kind of cheated a bit. We had the orange for the orange line, the new line that came through, the old colours of the Crystal Palace football team, and they all just sort of coincidentally happen to be really great things for the kind of drought tolerant plants that can survive up there as well. The sort of, the herbs and so on, the rosemary in the middle and the hibiscus, which are taking their time, but they're coming along. They'll be in flower later as well. They'll look good because they're bluebird, oiseau bleu, so they'll be really lovely as well. There's a lot of purples, a lot of blues. And the little kind of shouty fillers are the marigolds. We just sowed loads of marigolds with the little children who came by with their parents when we first put the garden in, and just asked them to shake seeds around, and they're just populating all the way around all the gaps. So yeah, we'll see more of those over the summer, and the asters. So yeah, it's the idea is it's all kind of successional colours and different things popping at different times.
Amazing. I'm definitely going to pay more attention on the way past. I always notice
Good.
it's beautiful, but I shall pay more
Lovely.
attention to specific things.
Terrific. Yeah,
Um,
please do that. That's what it's for. There's all sorts of other things hiding in there because we've had to experiment since it was first planted with things that might do better, because the attention it's received is really hard to gauge. So much of the activity that goes on is probably in the middle of the night. It's probably foxes, probably squirrels, might be passers-by who have had a few drinks too many. We don't know. And of course, plenty of dogs who just have to make their mark. So some things have thrived, some things have struggled on certain spots. The occasional mishap with wheeled vehicles as well, but otherwise it's looking fantastic.
Yeah, it really is.
We're really chuffed with how much everyone's sort of keeping an eye on it. People just watering, picking out litter, taking care of it, taking ownership of it. It's lovely.
Yeah, especially at the moment where I guess it's not possible to have quite such planned sessions to look after it.
Yeah, well, that's a big challenge. I mean, Sue, you must have something to add to that, because it's actually possible to socially distance there because it's so big. But obviously you have to follow guidelines and not be unnecessarily, take unnecessary risks. But it was a project that involved people who may or may not have had social isolation issues and loneliness issues, and it's kind of sad to not keep a tiny crack open for accidental meetings of people who maybe don't see anyone from one day to the next. So yeah, we've tried to navigate it a bit, haven't we, Sue, with just telling people that we'll be there but not inviting people to come.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we haven't called out for people to come. Normally we'd send a newsletter every month, but we haven't asked people to travel especially. So we've been bumping into regular people that we work with just while we've been there watering and stuff. And people know when we're normally there, so we're normally there the last Friday of every month between 10 and 12, so people know that. And then it's actually a fantastic place to hang out, because you just it's a great place to catch up, because everyone's either on their way to the station or the bus stop, or going into the park, or coming up the hill to go to the shops.
It really is the central point of the triangle almost, isn't it?
Yeah, the first day we were there in the lockdown was the April, wasn't it, I think? And so it was strange, because people were rushing past in a slightly peculiar way. They were all dressed for exercising in the park. I think it was the first time one of the cafes had started to open takeaway coffees, and so one chap in particular rushed past with a coffee and a pastry. And the gates are really wide, so I'm filling the watering can from one end of the gates, and he's sort of socially distancing, rushed past me, and I went, "Oh, is that a Blackbird Bakery coffee there and a pastry?" And he went, "Yeah," and then rushed off. I thought, no need to be snippy. But then he came back 20 minutes later. He said, "I'm really sorry. I just had to get in there and get my pastry eaten while my coffee was hot. I'm really sorry." So I was like, "It's fine. I understand. It's been a long wait for that coffee." But lots of people said hello and came by, just slowed down, and it was nice. You could sense that people wanted to chat.
Yeah. It was sort of designed as a meeting point, wasn't it? That was part of the idea behind it, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a natural meeting point. Yeah, so the design of it came from a project which was looking into the history of why there are so many boroughs at this point in South London. So yeah, we looked
boundary project.
Yes.
Personal boundaries in the landscape. It's a huge subject, brilliant subject. Yeah.
Which we actually launched at the library. We launched in December 2015.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a while ago we started trying to do this. and it wasn't quite as ambitious when we started.
Yeah, so Sue said to me, I've got some money to make a path. I didn't know where she was talking about at the time. She hadn't mentioned a particular location. She just said, I've got a little bit of money that we've, you know, been given to do a path project to commemorate this oak tree, the Vicar's Oak. And then she showed me the site, and it was like, well, we can't just do a little path here. This is a big hub. This is a circulation point. This is where people wonder where they are before they go on to the next stage. It's such a transitional point because it's this meeting of boundaries. But yeah, it grew quite a bit, maybe by, I don't know how many decimal points, but it grew.
Marvelous. We should probably just say, actually, for anybody who's watching who doesn't know what we're talking about,
yeah.
So the Vicar's Oak path is actually the well, you guys should say. Sue, you tell us where it is.
We always say at the top of the corner of Annerley Hill and Crystal Palace Parade. So it's the corner, it's the entrance to the park, which actually during this project I discovered that gate, the curved railings that everyone likes to use for banners and publicity, is actually called Boundaries Gate. So we're not the first people to have had this idea. Yeah, so one of the people we spoke to during the project, Ken Kish from the museum, had been involved at the time when those railings were put up in a sort of similar idea to commemorate the meeting place of 4 boroughs at that junction.
Because one borough sort of wiggles along the edge of it, doesn't it? One borough line kind of goes through the edge and through the bus station and off. Is it still there, or is that the one that's moved slightly?
I forget what the exact current layout is, actually, because I think I spent too long looking at old maps, but everything pretty much used to meet at a point kind of halfway between Westdown House and the park.
Some of the markers have gone missing. There are boundary markers that you can find in the landscape, which some diligent individual put in, and they're often either squished up against a wall, or sometimes they're freestanding bollards. Sometimes they've fallen over a bit because they're in the middle of a neglected corner and somebody's reversed something over it, and it's, you know, whatever. That you can't look for a consistent thing. You have to be quite imaginative about where something might have ended up if a tree's grown considerably in the last 100 years or something. So sometimes you see them proudly in the middle of a little alleyway or standing against a nice brick wall, but otherwise they can be lost in a bush or hiding under a hedge.
Sounds like we need a treasure hunt.
Yeah, it has been.
Actually find them.
It has been. So there were lots of explorations of, like Sue mentioned, the old maps. People explored different archives. Was it Croydon? And
yes, I think we went to all 4, because obviously there's 5 boroughs in this area, but Lewisham is at the other end of the hill, at the transmitter end, and the other 4 meet at that junction at the top of Annerley Hill. But yeah, we went to each of the local borough archives, and of course the library, you know, because the library is a great resource of historical information and newspaper cuttings, all sorts of quirky and strange stories from recent local history.
And lots of people kind of offered what they'd found, didn't they? I remember Jerry did some sort of delving into some archive or other and found some reference, because the Vicar's Oak is quite frequently mentioned up to a certain point in time, and then it all gets a little bit lost. We're not sure if it made it to the 19th century. It was probably lost in the early 17 somethings.
1676, I don't know, I can't remember.
I think it's 1740 something. I mean, it was legendarily so big that you could technically see it from North London. So if you were stood on the hill that Ali Pali is on, you could have seen the mighty Vicar's Oak.
Wow.
And so they would have beat the bounds. Beating of the bounds was the thing that you did to just, again, it's a little bit lost in time because the Victorians revived it. A little bit like Morris dancing. they revived it, and then it's like, well, where did that come from? And everyone's not too clear precisely where it came from, but it was something to do with identifying your land, and sort of claiming it for the parish, for the church, whoever. And either they would beat anybody they found who was randomly trespassing, or they would take, in the Victorian revival, they would take small boys round and sort of beat the boys, and their reward would be to get bread and cheese and beer.
Okay. So this
a
really does...
little questionable. So there are some funny pictures of all these children lined up holding these willow rods and looking really not very pleased. And I, it's probably because they've been told you're going to get, that's yours and you'll get hit with it later. Oh, ouch. I don't know. It was that awful.
So this sense of boundary is really what it's all about, isn't it? You just started mentioning about that earlier. I think, Sue, you were saying about the meeting point of all the boundaries, but the project was about different kinds of boundaries, I think.
I suppose, yes, in a way. I think I've got a bit of a thing about opening things up that are shut, or letting people do stuff they're not meant to do.
Well, letting people in who are not normally, included.
Yeah, so I suppose I've been involved with Crystal Palace Subway for a while, and that was a closed, for health and safety reasons. And this again is, this is a corner of the park that's very public, and really people have ownership of it through use of the space. And why don't we literally give people ownership of it and let people make real decisions about what happens there? So yes, we worked with various community partners. So the project was actually in partnership with Crystal Palace Community Trust. They were the lead partner, and they're an organisation that already, an important thing to them is the 5-borough nature of this area. And they work, they've got Anley Town Hall, and they've also got Kingswood Community Shop. So we worked with older people from the chair-based exercise group there. We worked with Linkage Southwark with their reminiscence group at Kingswood House, and we worked with Larsh, who are a community for people with learning disabilities in West Norwood, Choice Support, who support people in Southwark. And then my colleague, as an organiser on the project, Julia Honess, has worked in Southwark for a long time in community settings and has a sort of huge network of people. So we kind of brought all these things together to get people involved.
Amazing. I think I'm aware that we started a couple of minutes late, and I don't want us to run out of time before you actually tell us how the project happened. So tell us how you got to what we now have, which is the beautiful path and the oak and all the lettering and the flowers. How did that happen?
Slowly.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, Sue and I were chatting earlier, just in sort of preparation for this, and saying that we forgot that there was almost a year in the middle of everything where nothing happened, because you were waiting on permissions, and you're waiting on funding applications, and just waiting on. It's like, it's very slow fishing. You have to throw a line out and kind of wait. If you push, you don't get this kind of result, I guess. I mean, I'm not as experienced as lots of people in the charitable sector and fundraising and all of that, but there's so many activities that go on that get driven because the funding deadline is XYZ, and people end up rushing to spend, and sometimes rush to spend on things that then kind of go horribly quiet and don't get to see the fruition they'd all hoped for. And this has been an extraordinarily long game, really. But the results have been phenomenal, because maybe it's partly because of the site itself, because it's very prominent. I don't know, but in terms of outcomes, this is incredible. What is there? the path itself, the actual lettering that Beth helped design and create for us. Then the letters themselves that were decorated and populated with all the lettering in the letters themselves, which the thing I wanted to achieve for the community people the people who got involved with the project was that they could have as much input manually as possible in the creation. And so to create letters that we could each take and then create narratives on, and they would choose the little extracts that came from all the history books, all the references to the tree, all the references to I think the fact that two chaps who tried to get mistletoe out of the tree both came to a sticky end, all these kinds of wonderful references in things like John Evelyn's rural rides and stuff. Everybody sat in Beth's lovely workshop in the Paxton Centre and made each one unique. And then to revolve it around an actual tree stump that Sue spotted in a remnant of the Great North Wood down towards Dulwich. And we asked if we could have it, and two very brave men went and wrestled it onto the back of a lorry. I don't think they were expecting the job that they got, but they did an amazing job. So we have a tree stump. The reason being we weren't allowed an actual tree in that spot because of the highways issue. So there it stands as a remnant of a tree that became a remnant itself.
Cool. Sue, did you have something you just wanted to add to that?
Just, I think it's a combination of, obviously, an energy comes when people come and get involved in a project. So you get the funding, and then you have the moments you've actually got to do it, and then people come along, and that is when the energy builds. And it's just sitting with that and trusting it, really. And then we had a huge amount of trust from Bromley Council. So not many people say good things about Bromley Council, but every now and again you get a little sort of gem of something happen. So we had great trust from them. And then we just had people like Beth Mander at the Paxton Centre who open, creative, and sort of says, yes, I'll make, yes, we can do that, you know. So
how do we do it? How do we make them survive in the outdoors? Oh, that's not a problem, she said.
Yeah, so everyone just, you know, coming together and believing.
And the Secret Garden gave us plants, you know, when it started to really snowball, and yeah, they were just happy to give us extra anything, lavender, whatever. We lost one row because somebody drove a vehicle over one side of the flower beds when it was very young, and they, you know, no problem, they trotted over and gave us a dozen lavenders. Yeah, so it's and yeah, it's terrific.
A real full-on community project in every possible sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we're starting to run out of time. So I'd love to know before we finish a little bit more about what else Invisible Palace is involved in. If there's anything else you'd like to share with us about what's going on at the moment.
So we're still working quite closely with CPCT, and we're actually involved. They've had funding from Young Londoners this year for a 3-year project, and we're continuing some work that we started last year that some people might have spotted, circus activity park in July.
Yeah, that was fun.
So the Defy Gravity event, which had been a longer running project in partnership with James Dixon Primary, My Aerial Home in Sydenham, Adventure Learning Crystal Palace, who do great outdoor learning, and lots of local partners. So that work's carrying on. Obviously it's a bit stalled at the moment, as we're working with schools. We're also involved linking with Paxton Green Time Bank, and we're delivering hot food once a week to people that are isolating, shielding, or in food poverty. Yeah,
and that's in conjunction with Eastern Cuisine, isn't it? I've seen a lot around that.
And they supported the Vicar's Oak as well. So they're a fantastic local business.
Very much so. They contributed a large chunk of the planting budget, didn't they? Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So if people want to find out more, or they want to get in touch, or in fact you have a local donate page, I think, as well via your website, if people want to help support your work at the moment. So what's the best way for people to get in touch?
So in our, what do you call it, your profile on social media, you know, there's a link there. So we've got Linktree, which will take you to a page where you can find how to sign up to the newsletter, how to donate to various projects that we've got going. That's probably the quickest way. If you're not on social media, our website. If you're not really online at all, just come by last Friday of the month.
Yeah,
we'll be there at the.
You get refreshments, don't you? I think if you
You
stick
do.
around and help us water.
I think we're allowed, what's it, groups of 6 now?
Yes,
I think so.
Yep. There is a watering can there, just tucked away behind the gate where the tap is.
So
you can
basically,
water whenever you feel like it.
Okay. And in terms of the last Friday of the month, it's open to anybody who fancies just helping out, doing a bit of gardening, just
10 till 12.
Yeah. Okay, last Friday of the month. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I shall try and pop by and say hello.
Oh, please do.
2-meter distance.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you guys so much for coming to chat to us. It's really lovely to know more. I've sort of seen Invisible Palace on social media and things, and it's really lovely to find out a bit more in depth about one of your projects particularly. So thank you very much indeed. Just moving on before we finish to the rest of the live streaming program that we have here. So this is obviously one of our regular things on the live streaming program, the Library Live Lunch. And in fact, tomorrow we've got Margaret from the Library Hub is coming to talk about a very exciting new project there as well. Okay. We also have regular things. We have morning meditation, we have yoga, singing classes, although we're taking a break this week for half term because we haven't had a break in a very long time. We have Edible Garden with Tanya, which is happening at 1 o'clock today, so pretty much straight after this. It was lovely. Shows you little bits of gardening and what you can then do with the produce as well in the kitchen. It's very inventive and very kind of straightforward, doable things. What else? We have children's stories. We have some live music, Covers Cafe on Friday. And we're actually, if anybody's interested in providing some live streaming, we have a few slots available for that, particularly looking for more people to read children's stories, but we're open to offers. So if you fancy having a go at that, do give us a shout. I think that's it from me for today. So thank you, Sue and Lou, for coming to talk to us about Invisible Palace and the
You're welcome.
I'm certainly going to look at it in a different way now when I walk past it. Appreciate it even more. So thank you very much indeed. Enjoy the sunshine, everybody. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.